Good morning, Facebook family and friends. Today is August the 31st. Wow. And it is 8 a.m. This is Saturday morning with Dr. Mama Rosie Thompson. And we're continuing to talk about being our whole authentic self. I said last week that I thought that was going to be the end of this part and we were moving to something different, but I had a conversation with some people and I just want to go one more day and then we'll move on to something else. But at once, first and foremost, thank you all for joining. Thank you for taking the time out of your day. Those of you who will be joining me now as I go live. Excuse me, and those who will see this video later on Facebook or YouTube, I really appreciate you taking the time to come and spend time with us and to hear what I'm saying and to share with me. I appreciate you. You know how much I thank you so much. Again, it's Saturday morning with Dr. Mama Rosie Thompson. Today is August 31st, and we're talking about becoming our whole authentic self. A couple of things came up about knowing your self-worth and actually living your self-worth. Because sometimes we know something, but how do you get to where you actually live it? And then I had a wonderful email from a daughter of mine who said to me, who was talking about this, and she was saying about pressure on the journey, and she was talking about how she knows who she is, but sometimes because people play these negative tapes in our head, and that goes back to our May 18th discussion. So I'm going to recap some things we said on May 18th for that one, and then we're going to go into today's August 31st. And hopefully, I think that will be the end of this discussion, and we will see what we need to talk about next. Thank you again for joining, and we're going to go ahead and get started. We talked about, back in May, we talked about self-esteem versus self-worth. There is a difference. Self-esteem describes your thoughts and feelings about yourself. It's basically, it's based on the judgment you make about yourself in the moment. So low self-esteem can be situational or chronic, with chronic low self-esteem being more likely to cause emotional behavior problems. So that's not it. Because self-esteem involves your thoughts and feeling about yourself and your level of confidence, it isn't stable or consistent. So your self-esteem can change over time, and it depends heavily on the outer world of people. Whatever, it depends a lot on what people are doing, on the external information that we're receiving, the way what we use to compare ourselves, to judge, to evaluate ourselves. That's our self-esteem. And I think the thing I want you to remember is that it's depends heavily on the outer world of people. So what people are saying, it depends a lot on them. Whereas self-worth, research describes self-worth as being a broader and a more stable form of self-esteem, and it's less influenced by outside or inside factors. Instead of focusing on specific traits and skills and circumstances or your achievements, self-worth describes the core belief that you have about your worth and value, who you are. Okay, core beliefs tend to be consistent over time, which is why self-worth is less likely to change in response to some feelings or thoughts, behavior, or things that you experience. So your self-worth, we're going to talk about it some more, because I think that we're going to understand it a little bit more as we talk about it more, what our self-worth is. And it's not I don't think it's our self-worth that's being affected as much as our self-esteem. I think the important thing is when we need to know our self-worth, get to understand what is our self-worth. I think that's where we need to go to help, to understand this. Self-esteem is what we think and feel and believe about ourselves. Self-worth is recognizes that I'm greater than all of those things. I'm greater than what I feel about myself. I'm greater than what I think about myself. I'm greater than what I believe about myself. It's a deep knowing that I'm valued, that I'm lovable, I'm necessary to this life, and of all the incomprehensible worth. That's what self-worth is. It's deeper. It's not something that people can come. Sometimes people come against you in almost everything, but that's just how it is. But when you know your self-worth, that's down on the inside. Even when you don't feel your self-worth, you still have it. You're there. It's there on the inside. So what we need to do is recognize this, and then we begin to apply it in our life. There's a psychology of self-worth, and it says that self-worth is at the core of our very selves. It's the very core of it. Not just what you're thinking off the top of your head, but the deeper part is the very core of our thoughts, very core of our feelings and our behavior. and is intimately tied to how we view our worthiness and values as human beings, just as a human being, not as an employee, not as a friend, but just as a human being. When we start to do it, when it becomes a part of how we feel toward being an employee or a friend, things like that, then it's more of self-esteem. Okay, the self-worth theory, it persists that an individual's main priority in life is to find self-acceptance, and that self-acceptance is often found through achievement. That's Covington and Berry in 1976. In turn, achievements is often found through competition with others. So, thus, the logical conclusion is that competing with others can help us to feel like we have impressive achievements under our belt, which then makes us feel proud of ourselves and enhances our acceptance of other people. The theory holds that there are four main elements of self-worth, of the self-worth model. There's ability, effort, performance, and then self-worth. The first three interact with each other to determine one level of self-worth. One's ability and efforts predictably have a big impact on your performance, and all these three contribute to our feeling of worth and value. I hope I'm not going too fast. While this theory represents a good understanding of self-worth, as we tend to experience it, it is unfortunate that we place so much emphasis on our achievements, because it's not about that. Aside from competing and winning against others, there are many factors that can contribute to our sense of self-worth. So, with this, when we talk about what determines our self-worth, we need to know what it is that determines. According to this theory, it's determined mostly by our self-evaluated abilities and our performance in one or more activities that we deem valuable. However, people commonly use other yardsticks when they measure their self-worth. So we're just going to slow down and talk about 5 of the top factors that sometimes we use to measure and compare our self-worth to the worth of other people. Appearance, whether measured by the number on the scale, the size of the clothes we wear, the kind of attention other people give us when we get dressed. So our appearance is one of the things that we know sometimes people use. Our net worth, this can mean income, material possessions, financial assets, all of those 3 things. Who you know, your social status. Some people judge their own value and the value of others by their status, and what's important, and what important and influential people they know. So they feel like if they know this person, I'm in the know with this person, that determines my self-worth. If I look a certain way, that determines my self-worth. My net worth, my net value, my income or whatever, that determines my self-worth. What you do in your career. We often judge others by what they do. For example, a stockbroker is often considered to be more successful and valuable than a janitor or a teacher. What we achieve, we think that determines our self-worth sometimes. How much I've achieved, how much I've got. I've done this, I've gone to school, I've got this education, I got this degree. Sometimes people think that they use that to consider and their self-worth, to determine their self-worth. We frequently use these achievements to determine someone's worth. Like the SAT, how well they scored, how much did they do in business, that kind of stuff. So we determine sometimes our self-worth by our appearance, our net worth, who you know, your social circle, what you do, your career, or what you achieve. But I want to say, there was an author, her name is Stephanie Wade Wong. And she was on a mission to correct the misunderstanding and the misperceptions about self-worth. So instead of listing all the factors that go into what makes you worthy, she outlined what does not determine what self-worth is, or what should not determine what your self-worth is. Your self-worth should never be determined by your to-do list. Achieving goals is great. It's good. It's a good thing to achieve your goals. And it feels wonderful to cross off the things on your to-do list, but it doesn't have a direct relationship with your worth as a person. It does not. Your job, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you do what you like and it fulfills you. That's what your job is. It should be something that you enjoy doing. It fulfills you. You make the money that you're trying to make. You get into a position, but that has nothing to do with your self-worth. Your social media following. It also doesn't matter how many people think you're worthy, to follow a tweet. It doesn't matter how many people check off the like thing when you do something. It doesn't matter how many people viewing the video. That does not determine your self-worth. If it did, think about it. If some of those things that we named determine your self-worth, what happens when they stop happening? Now I'm no longer worthy. Okay, it can be enlightening and healthy to consider the perspective of others, but their opinions have no impact on our innate value. They have no impact. Your age, you're never too young or you're never too old for anything. Your age is simply a number that does not factor into your value as a human being. It should never, and we should not allow it to be a factor in our value as a human being. Okay, I got it better. Other people, as noted above, it doesn't matter what other people think or what other people have done or accomplished. So you telling me what you've done, that's you. You've accomplished this, that doesn't determine your worth, and it doesn't mean that I have less self-worth because I haven't accomplished what you've accomplished. Good for you. Your personal satisfaction and fulfillments are much more important than what other people are thinking or saying or what they're doing. How far you can run. Some people, 1 mile. Your mile run time is one of the least important factors for your self-worth, or for anything else for that matter. If you enjoy running and feel fulfilled about improving your time, good for you. If not, good for you too. Your ability to run does not determine your self-worth. Whatever it is, does not determine. Your grades in school. We all have different strengths in life. We all have different weaknesses or areas, rather, that we can improve on. And some of us are simply not cut out to go back to school. This has no bearing on your value as a person, and a straight A student is just as valuable and worthy as a straight F student or a dropout. We're all just as valuable. So, the number of friends you have, your value as a human, has nothing to do with how many friends you are connected to you or how many friends you have. The quality of those relationships is what's really important, and just to having that relationship, but it doesn't determine your worth. Your relationship status, whether you're going solo, whether you're casually dating or in a committed relationship, your value is exactly the same. Your value status doesn't alter your worth. That's what I want you to know. The money, a lack thereof in the bank. If you have enough money to physically survive, which can in fact be zero, then you have already achieved the maximum amount of worth you can get from that. Zero. Your likes, it doesn't matter if you have good taste or bad taste, if your friends and acquaintances think you're sophisticated, or if you have an eye for the finer things, your worth is the same either way. Anything or anyone but yourself, and this is the heart of what I want to say today, anything or anyone but you. You are the only one who determines your self-worth. If you believe that you're worthy and that you're valuable, you are worthy and valuable. Even if you don't believe that you're worthy and valuable, you're still worthy and valuable. I want you to know that anything or anyone but you, you're the only one who can determine your own self-worth. If you believe that you're worthy, you are. If you don't believe that you're worthy, you still are worthy, and you are so very valuable. Self-worth is based on an individual's inborn or inherent value as a person. That's what it is. It's that inborn value as a person. It's not based on any external factors such as what you can do or your appearance. Some examples of self-worth can include your security, resilience, character. Who are you? How secure are you in you? Just in you. How resilient? Are you able to bounce back because of what's in you? Not because of the help from somebody else, not because of you got kudos from anybody else, just because of who you are. That person that you were more made to be, the person you were born to be. So we felt that the young man said that it was really important to not only to know our self-worth. So knowing our self-worth, let's talk about knowing it. Self-worth is a combination of factors that affect how comfortable someone is with themselves and how confident they are in this world. There are many ways to determine your self-worth, including, I'm going to name a few. I remember, and I think I may have shared this before, I went into an interview with my mentor. And the question was asked to me, because I was trying to be a manager at the time, said, how would you feel if you walked into a room full of white men, a room full of 100, I think she said 100 white men. And I said to her, I feel that I'm someone they should know. And I wasn't trying to be anything but honest. Because that's who I am. And I feel, but see, the thing about it is, that's how I met one of the senior managers when I was at the bank. We were at a conference, and she was brand new, and we was at this conference, and she was introducing herself. And when I introduced myself, I said, hi, my last name was Simmons at the time. I told her, I said, I'm Rosie Simmons, and I'm someone you should know. And it's not being funny, it's not being cute, it's not thinking I have something to say. And that's the way I come out sometimes, but that's who I am. I am someone you should know. But I feel the same way about you. You are someone that people should know. You're someone I want to know. We learn so much in these. It's so much in each and every one of us. I don't exclude anybody. I'm someone that homeless people should know. There's somebody I should know. I think I told you there was a lady used to sit out in front of Walgreens, and some of you that used to work there where I work downtown knew of her. She used to sit there selling streetwise and candy. Real nice lady. And I used to talk to her. And one day she said, "Oh, you work at the bank." She said, somebody gave me some suits. I got some suits, and you have to wear suits all the time, so I got some suits for you." And I came to work that day with a bag full of suits that the homeless lady gave me. And people were laughing. They thought it was so funny. But I thought it was so awesome that the homeless lady thought about me and brought me suits. So you know what I did after I got that suit clean? I wore my suit and made sure that she see me in my suit. Because my self-worth has nothing to do with where that suit came from or who gave it to me. My self-worth is who I am as a human being, who I am as a person. So knowing your self-worth, there are many ways to determine it. Understand your value. Your value. Consider what you can do. Who are you? What's important to you? Consider what you can do, your skills, your talents, your experiences, and how they contribute to the world. Just you, not what you got to learn, what you don't know how to do. Look at who you are as a person and say, I bring this. I bring a smile to almost everybody I meet. Think about those things that you bring and don't dismiss anything that you have to offer. Celebrate your new uniqueness. Think about what makes you different. Embrace that. We're going to talk about that a little bit more now in a little bit in a different way, but celebrate your uniqueness. I know that I'm loud, I'm country, I'm funny. I was in the building where I live now, and I said, "Oh, this building's so quiet." I was talking to one of the board members, and I said, "Oh, this building's so quiet. I have to use my indoor voice." She said, "That's your indoor voice?" I said, "If you don't think it is, follow me outside." But I made her laugh, and I laugh, and sometimes it just come out things I'm not even thinking about it, but it's funny. That's who I am. That's my part of my work. That's what I bring. I bring that when other people can't. Some people can't bring what I bring. I was riding the bus at one time from my house when I lived in the house, and I was riding the bus to go to work. And I started taking the bus, and when I started taking the bus, and I get on the bus and speak. I get on the bus and speak. And when everybody, then later on, people get on the bus and we all speaking to each other. I didn't have fun to ride, but we all get on the bus. So one day I got on the bus and the driver said, before you start riding this bus, I had a quiet bus. Now everybody get on the bus. First thing good morning. Good morning, everybody. But that's my unique self. I don't change it for anyone. I don't try to be different for anyone. That's part of my self-worth. That's what I, as a human being, bring to this world. Another thing we can do to accept and knowing our self-worth, acknowledge your accomplishments. Take a stock of your strength in the area where you've achieved something. What are your strengths? Now, I don't mean accomplishment in the sense that I have my degree. Well, I have 3 degrees. My degree, I'm not meaning that in the sense that I have the degree itself, but I mean acknowledge your accomplishment in the sense that I am dedicated. I'm dedicated enough to, and I'm focused enough to go back and see the dedication and the focus is part of my self-worth. Not the paper itself. The paper itself is good, but the dedication and the focus. I am dedicated enough to take the time and focused enough to pay attention, to study, to read, to retain, and to obtain those degrees. Be kind to yourself. Surround yourself with positive people and do something for someone else. Never get to the point where you're all taking and never giving. Surround yourself with positive people. When people come to me with stuff that I know it's not part of my place or where I'm going, I don't allow them. Sometimes I would cut them off, but I don't allow them. If you can't find something good in this world, something good in life, something good, and I don't care. Sometimes I ask people, what you cook, not because I don't know what I want to cook, but because it takes the conversation to a place of comfort for me. I don't want to hear about all the bad things that happen. I see the news. I know the bad things that are happening. But me, I practice. I be kind to myself. I surround myself with. I don't surround myself with people who are gonna hurt me, who are gonna say things to me that hurt me. No, we don't do that. And if we do, we make changes, and we practice self-acceptance. Be comfortable with who you are. Be comfortable with your weight. Be comfortable with your height. And you know me, I'm kind of flip at the mouth. I remember one day I was at work and people say things that's going to come up because a young lady sent me a really good email and she talked about that, how people want to play these negative tapes. I was at work one day and I was just saying something because she shouldn't have messed with me. But I was at work one day and a young lady said, "Ooh, Rosie, look at you gaining weight." I said, "Girl, I was on a diet until your boyfriend started telling me how good I look." Be comfortable with yourself. Be comfortable with your weight. Be comfortable with your height. If you don't like it, you can work toward changing it, but you got to learn to be comfortable with it. Some things you're not going to change. You're not going to change maybe the color of your eyes or the fact that you do all this stuff and your hair didn't grow or the fact that you're bald head. Whatever. Be comfortable with. Learn to love yourself and learn to forgive yourself. Reflect on past mistakes. Acknowledge the pain you experienced. Identify what you learned. I told you when I went through the abuse and stuff as a kid and growing up, I learned that I'm very strong. I went through that stuff and I came out and I'm not in somewhere on medication. I've learned one thing, that I am very strong. That there's a strength in me that I don't even understand. Forgive yourself. Know your boundaries. This always come up, and it's going to come up again, I must say, and that when we talked about pressure, you got to know your boundaries. You got to be clear about what you value and assert yourself as an equal in relationship. Nobody's over us. Assert yourself in relationship as an equal. We respect each other's positions. We respect what each other do, but we are equals in this relationship. When I went to work, yes, I'm your employee. Yeah, you think that you gave me a job? No, I gave you a whole employee. I gave you a dedicated employee. I gave you a focused employee. I gave you an employee who's a team. I'm a team player. I brought all of myself into that job. So we're equals in this relationship. Yeah, you got to pay me because that's what I deserve. Yeah. And if it's not what I deserve, we're going to talk about it. You're going to pay me what I deserve. We have to assert ourselves as equals in these relationships. Stop acting like you're the lesser on the totem pole, and stop acting like you're the most high. No, we're not. We're equal in these relationships. You know better than me. I know better than you. Engage yourself in fulfilling things. Commit yourself to the things that you are passionate about. That's how you begin to know your self-worth. Begin to commit yourself to things that you are passionate about. Self-worth is about loving yourself, which can improve your overall well-being and your relationship with other people. So that's how we know our self-worth. So then he said to me, one thing that we need to do is know our self-worth, and then we need to be able to accept and live our self-worth. And so I got something we're going to talk about, accepting and living our self-worth. But I'm going to look over because I have the monitor. It's to my right, but it looks like I'll be looking to the left. So I'm just going to check out the monitor and see if there are any comments from people on Facebook. And then I'll come back. Okay, because we do have comments. Emily, thank you so much for joining this morning, my beautiful sister. Dinetta, love you. Thank you so much for joining. And and Emily laughing laughing at me. Oh, my grandbaby told me yesterday that she wanted me to tell her how old her father was, and I wouldn't do it because he always teasing him like he's younger. And she wanted me to tell her how old her father was, and I wouldn't do it. And I said, well, I can't say he's old because Grandma Rosie, I'm only 47. And she's like, Grandma, you can't be 47. I said, well, baby, I said, well, how old do I look? She said, you don't look more than 90. So on the spirit of not looking more than 90 today, I'm going to accept and live my self-worth. So let's talk about accepting and living our self-worth. So now we understand, once we know our self-worth, we got to accept that for ourselves, and we have to live it. Accepting and living kind of go together. If you're not living it, maybe you haven't accepted it. But when you know that this is who I am, outside of what I do, outside of how I look, outside of what you may think of me, this is who I am. So there are many ways to live in a sense of self-worth. There are many ways, just like knowing it, many ways to know it. There are many ways to live inside of it. One way that we can live inside and accept it and live our self-worth is to practice self-care. This can include anything like going for a walk, or exercising, cooking a healthy meal. Practice something that's self-care for you. Practice something, find something that you do just to care for you. Go to the spa, go to get a massage. If you're looking for an inexpensive place, there's a place on Madison near Des Plaines in Forest Park called Happy Feet. And they do feet massage, but they do full body massage, and they're very inexpensive. So Happy Feet. If you're looking for something to do like that, you can go get a massage that's not costing you a lot of money. There's a lot of things that you can do as ways to take self-care. I walk sometimes, but I don't walk a lot. And I don't walk as much as I would like to. Sometimes it's my asthma, sometimes it's my legs, sometimes I'm just lazy. But there's a beautiful park not too far from my house that I could walk to the park. Most of the time I don't walk to that park. I'll drive to the park. But the park is so pretty. And the park has so many benches. So you can walk a few steps and get on up, sit down and look if you want. And they have this thing that looks like a bird cage. And it has books. So you can take a book or leave a book, and you can read a book. I sit there and read a book, and just take care of ourselves. Practice ways to take care of ourselves. Recognize your strength. Make a list of things that you like about yourself. The skills, the things you've learned, something that you can help others do. Think about your strengths. Celebrate your successes. Take time to praise yourself, even for the small accomplishments. And I don't mean you don't have to, and you can if you want, but you don't have to go and get broke just to even to praise yourself, to take care of yourself. Sometimes for me, even sitting out there in that park, just chilling and looking at the people and the cars and the bird, that's a way I celebrate sometimes things I do. I also celebrate things sometimes I do little weird things, like I have jewelry, all costume jewelry, but I have some good jewelry too. I got this piece, not this piece, but another piece that I got from my mom. Well, not from my mom, but I say it's from my mom because when she passed away, I bought these earrings of them, the gold earrings, the necklace, and I got the watch. And sometimes when I do something that I know she would have been proud of, I'll wear that. When I get dressed on, I'll wear that for the day because I know that she would have been proud of it. That's the one way I celebrate. So find your own way to celebrate your successes. Practice forgiveness. Reflect on your past mistakes. Acknowledge the pain you experienced. Identify what you learned. And practice forgive yourself. Forgive yourself. Remember, when we forgive, we forgive others. And we forgive ourselves because it doesn't mean that this didn't happen. It doesn't mean it didn't hurt you. So we acknowledge the pain that we experience. We never want to dismiss it like it didn't bother me. Yes, it did. It bothered me. Because if we don't manage our things and we're not open and real about ourselves, that stuff began to pile up. You know how it is. I'm sorry. Excuse me. You know how it is. The first time you're not so upset about it, but it happened another time. Maybe with women especially, if it happened 3 times for us, all my life you've been doing it, and it's not all my life. They did it 3 times. You always do that. It's not always. They did it 3 times, but we start to add in those words into out, and it makes it a bigger thing than what it really is. So we want to practice forgiveness. We don't want to hold on to things that's gonna hurt us. Unforgiveness actually hurts us. Volunteering, it's a good idea. Serving others can help us to shift our focus from our own problem to helping somebody else, and that's always good. Accept your self-worth. Live your self-worth. Be vulnerable. Don't be afraid to be yourself and say you're nervous, or have a human trait. Don't be afraid to do that. The journey to unconditional self-worth is not an easy one. I know it sounds tough. I can bring this information, but actually doing it is not easy. It takes courage. It can be messy, and it can be scary to accept ourselves just as we are. First of all, sometimes we're not used to it. And that's a scary thing too. I'm not used to it. And when we start to talking about our self-worth, when I'm taking care of myself and my own self-worth and living my own self-worth, you may not agree with it. So there's a sense of, I don't want to hurt you. I don't want you to feel like I'm coming against you. But it's not about you at all. It's about, this is what I need to be my whole authentic self. This is what I need in my life to be who I was called to be, who I was meant to be. And it's not to hurt anybody. It's not to, to disrespect anybody, but it's to make me whole and to make me authentic and for me to live the life that God called me to live. That's the whole goal for me. A strong sense of self-worth can help us improve our relationships, cope with negative thoughts, and understand ourselves. When we are real, it would be so nice. There are some things, Emily has known me a long time, and there are some things you could tell Emily about me, and she would probably tell you, no, that don't sound like Rosie. So sometimes, because she knows me, when we bring our real and whole self into a relationship, but sometimes when we don't bring our whole self, when we're not living a whole and authentic life, and we bring these partial things to our life, and that person later on be like, wait a minute. That ain't what you've been doing. That ain't what you've been saying, because you didn't bring your whole self. You didn't let them know who you really are. The journey, I tell you, is worth taking. And you will find strength in it that you never thought that you had. You never imagined. I see, Sister Poole, thank you so much for joining today. Leoka, love you. Amen. We have to forgive ourselves. And also, and that's the next one, Leoka. Forgive ourselves. Many of our struggles, sometimes we struggle with feeling worthy, because we're angry about something in our past. It could have been a mistake. It could have been something that we're not even paying attention to. But forgiveness involves acknowledging that, accepting that it happened, releasing us from blaming ourselves, and allows us to move forward. That's why we forgive ourselves. We can't go back and undo whatever it was we did. I found out at the book launch that I had traumatized my kids, and wait, I didn't even know it did happen, but David was talking about it at the book launch. I accept that. I acknowledge that. I apologize. I want to stop here too to say a little bit about apologizing. Sometimes if I hurt you and I come to you and you, probably I'm not going to say anything if you didn't find out, but normally, because normally we don't say anything, but when they find out and it comes up that I've hurt you, and I come back and I apologize to you, I can be sincere in my apology. In my mind, I can be sincere. But oftentimes when people say, I'm sorry, they want that to be the end of it. That's not a real apology. When you really apologize to somebody, you have to be willing to listen to what they need to say. Just because you got it off you by saying I'm sorry does not mean that the situation is corrected or has been resolved. Sometimes that other person, example, without going into too much detail, a person that I know did something at my house that I didn't like. Okay. And I waited. And that's another, we don't allow our emotions to dictate when we talk. You remember we count to 10. If that doesn't work, we slowly count to 20. We do whatever it takes to. So when we go to somebody to tell them something, we want to make sure that our emotions are not overtaking us. So I waited until it was, a good time to talk to them about it. And when I talked to them, I really felt that they were sorry in the way that they said it. Rosie, I am so sorry. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry. But you still need to hear how that affected me. So I still made them sit there and listen. No, you don't get to just say I'm sorry. You did it wrong. Now you just going to say you're sorry. But I'm not done with this. Let me tell you how this affected me. And if you don't let me tell you how it affected me, it can also affect our relationship. That's when we talk about forgiveness. So first of all, we forgive ourselves. That's I want to just throw that in, because it's important that when we ask somebody to forgive us, we need to allow them to get to that point where they can accept the forgiveness. We don't just say it and it's done. No, unless you and I are both okay, the problem is still there. You and I both have to be okay in the apology. So to forgive yourself, reflect on the circumstances that led to that mistake. Acknowledge the pain you experienced. Identify what you learned from it. Sometimes when something happened, we don't even think about I learned something from this, even though it was something that I didn't want to happen. We learn something all the time. Then we can say to ourselves, I forgive you. I forgive me. I forgive me for traumatizing my kids. I forgive me for not protecting them for the way that I should have. I forgive me for sometimes not, doing the things that I should have done, and whatever they were. I'm not saying whatever they were because I know what they were. I don't know. But if I know, I would say it openly. I forgive me for allowing people to mistreat me and not having boundaries in my life. I forgive me for not taking the time way before now to understand my self-worth and to know my self-worth. I forgive me for not knowing about how that trauma in my life affected me, and in my effect, how it affected me, and how I did put that off on other people, unknowingly affecting other people. I forgive me. I forgive me to the point where I can now free fall and just feel so relieved and so relaxed, where I can say things even though sometimes it's still hard to say what I feel. Sometimes it's still hard to say when I don't like something, but still I have to say it, and I can do it now. Even in the pain, I move through that. I do it anyway. So I forgive me. Hey, Minister Darius, it's such a blessing to see you. Pastor Davis, we love you. And Mama, Mama does, in my heart, I love you. Amen. Amen. She said, here's an opportunity to practice our listening skills. So yeah, it's really important to practice our listening skills when someone is talking, because we never know. Sometimes, and go back to you, Mom, sometimes when we're talking to somebody and we're going back to forgiveness for a moment, sometimes when you're talking to them, you find that what they come to you with, that bothers them or whatever it is, it actually can be deeper. For people who have dealt with traumatic situations in our lives, sometimes it's a trauma trigger. So sometimes you're looking at, dang, the only thing I did was I didn't give her $1 back on time. She all upset about that $1. But it's not that. What you did is kind of you took away my I don't even know. You took away something from me, and you start to feel like trauma people always feel like you've taken something away from me. So when you got that $1, it may not have been but $1, but you did that too. That's that trigger. You took something else away from me that didn't belong to you, that you had no right to take. It was my $1, and you had no right to take it. So you're looking at, it was just $1, but you never know how deep it goes. So that's why it's important to practice those listening skills, because you'll be able to hear that in the conversation. You'll be able to hear that. Sometimes when we start to use the word like people always, now you're talking to me because I heard you, and now we're talking about people that have nothing to do with you and me. But people always doing that, but that's something that has happened to you in the past, as Becca said, if you're feeling whatever you're feeling today doesn't really align up with what happened to this one situation, then it's probably something in the history of your life that's got you acting this way about this one thing. If you're so upset because they moved your cup from the kitchen table, it's probably more than that cup that got moved. It's more than something else that happened in the past, that now this one cup is affecting us so badly. So we do have to practice listening. We do have to hear when people are trying to tell us something. Okay. And another thing we can do is we can practice self-acceptance and learn to accept ourselves just as we are. Just as we are. That is not always easy, but learn to accept we can practice these things. Learn to accept ourselves just as we are. We receive so many messages that say we're not okay the way we are. We're told that we need to change the way our bodies look. We need to change the clothes we wear. We need to change the jobs we do. Or change our personalities to be acceptable. First thing, we don't. Our self-worth, this is who we are. So we start by embracing those things that we like about ourselves, because that's the easy part. Think of those things that you like about yourself and start embracing those things. After you start embracing those things that you feel good about that, then slowly start to embrace your quirks. That awkward laugh that you got, that crooked smile that you got. Start thinking about those things and start embracing those things. And by doing this, you start to acknowledge that you're worthy just as you are. You start to acknowledge that. You know, going back to the workplace, one they told me. Now, it didn't matter that we were doing what do you call those, where they did those surveys, customer surveys, and I was always with 9 or 10. That was the highest you could get, was a 10. Never got a survey under 9, under a 9. And I was called into the office because somebody decided, I don't know who, some internal person decided that the customers couldn't understand what I was saying. So I guess they gave me a 9 or 10 just to get rid of me. But anyway, they said that the customers couldn't understand what I was saying, and they didn't think that I spoke well enough, to be talking to customers, and that was what I did at work. And so because they said that, and my manager brought it to me, so okay, I'm one of those people. You tell me I need to do something, let's do it. So I said, well, there's a Toastmasters down the street I would like to join. Will you pay for it? So, you can't tell me I got a problem if you're not willing to help me with it. So they did. They paid for me to go to Toastmasters. The first time I went to Toastmasters, I just wanted to see it. I'd never gone to a meeting. The second time I went to Toastmasters, the following week, I volunteered to be a speaker. The third week I went to Toastmasters, I won Best Speaker. And I brought that little thing they gave me back and gave it to her. And I didn't go back to Toastmasters again. I understand that I don't sound like you. I understand that I'm country. I understand that some of those words, when I pronounce them, my kids be like, huh? So I understand if you say, huh. I don't have a problem with it, but I accept this is who I am. It's not that I'm trying to sound like that. That's some of those words. We didn't pronounce them the way you do. That's who we are. That's it. And be there for yourself. Learn to be there for your own self. When life gets rough, sometimes we abandon ourselves during these times of challenges. We engage in self-criticism, which only leaves us to feeling even worse about ourselves. What we need most when we're going through a difficult time is for somebody to say, I see you. I see how badly you're hurting. I'm here. So do it for yourself. If you don't have anybody else that will do it for you, do it for yourself. See yourself for yourself. I see me. I see this is going to happen and this affecting me. I see that it's hurting me. But I'm here for me. Okay? Start to do the things that create the life you want to have. Find ways and start to do those things that create the life that you want to have. And then the next one I want to say is to connect with supportive people. When people with low self-worth can lead to feeling isolated and alone. When we think there's something wrong with us, we tend to pull away from our relationships. And this isolation only intensifies our feeling of unworthiness. Knowing that we're not alone in our struggles and pain reminds us that challenges don't make us unworthy. Sometimes, I used to think that something was wrong with me because everybody else act like they were okay and I was not okay. Until I found out, I told you people lie. People lie. I thought that something had to be wrong with me because everybody else seemed like they were okay and my life was like messed up, and I didn't understand why this came at me and why this came against me and why I had to deal with this. It didn't seem like other people do, but they do too. There was an example. There was a lady at work, and I used to really admire her because she would always tell me about her marriage. And she, I'm not married, she's married. And she would always tell me about her marriage. And she would tell me things about how wonderful he is. When she got home, he had made dinner. And then one day she was telling me that it had snowed. And she said he left his job, went over to the parking lot and cleaned her car, cleaned the snow off her car. And I really liked that. That was cool. I thought that was the best. So one day she was at work. And something happened, and I said, oh, well, you don't have to worry about it because your husband got you. And this lady turned around and told me, she said, you don't know how many days I leave work and have to spend the evening in the bathroom, locked in the bathroom. I'm like, wow. Wow. So people don't always tell the truth. We are not alone in our struggle. Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're going through, whatever it is, somebody else is feeling the same way and going through it. And that's why, for me, it's important that I share. Because somebody else is dealing with the same problem of not knowing who they are, not knowing their self-worth, basing their self-worth on what somebody else say they are, and what somebody else say they should do, and what somebody else say they should look like, and what somebody else say they should act like, and what somebody else say they should eat. No, your self-worth is that imprinted person of who God created you to be. And just because you're a person, you have self-worth, and you are so very worthy. So very worthy. Another thing, I think we sort of answered a little bit. We know that the email that I got, the message that I got was regarding pressure. And she said to me, and I kept her message. She said to me she said, I understand, I know my worth, I love who I am, I love being me, living in my body, in my skin. I'm comfortable and happy and feel really blessed to be the person that God made me. But there are times when people can insert, for lack of a better word, negative tapes that I have to get out of my head. So, pressure. There will always be pressure from society, and there will always be pressure from someone trying to persuade or force us to be or do something. Always. Pressure, and another thing she said that I liked on here, I'll talk about it in a second, and that we're in on time. Pressure stems from this neuroticism, which is a personality trait that describes a person's tendency to experience negative emotions such as anxiety, such as anger, sadness, or guilt. People who are high in this neuroticism are more likely to be sensitive to negative cues in the environment. They interpret situations as something threatening. They have frequent and disproportionate negative emotional responses to challenges. They're oftentimes self-critical. People like this are sensitive to criticism from others. They feel personally inadequate, have frequent emotional changes, and they tend to be tense and withdrawn. So when you meet a person that's putting the pressure on you, it's sometimes because they have something in them that need to be done, something in them that they need to pay attention to. So what do? You can't change them really from putting the pressure on you, but what you can do, you can, in a private place, in a private controlled place, with your controlled emotions. Our emotions belong to us, but they're not us. So we don't want to be emotional when we talk to people. Tell that person that you don't like what's happening and ask them to stop. And if it doesn't stop, we set boundaries. Pressuring someone is not the answer. Remember, debates are never won by force. Debates are won when you present a better argument. You can talk to a person, let them know why doing it your way is the better way, but you will never be able to force anybody to do anything they want. And understand, when those people who are putting pressure on you, something in their life they need to be dealing with. It's something, it's not you. It's something that's their personality trait. There's something in them that they want to look at and see, why am I so self-critical? Why am I criticizing myself? Why does every time somebody say something, I interpret it as as something threatening? Why do I feel that way? Like, that I'm inadequate. What is it about me? So it's not really you, the person that's receiving the pressure. It's actually the one that's applying the pressure. Good morning, Mark. Thank you so much. She said, and the last thing she said about in her message. The last thing she said, she said that when a person know their self-worth, then they know how to treat others. Amen. When we know and live our self-worth, when you know that, first of all, our journey to finding our self-worth in a relationship, personal development will play a major part. Because the more you grow yourself mentally, the more we grow ourselves emotionally, the more we grow ourselves psychologically, and in every possible way, the more confident we become. So as we become confident in ourselves, we expect that same thing from other people. We look for the same thing in other people. We're not when we are sure and confident in who we are. We don't think nobody else in the world is. Like as I said, when I said I'm someone you should know, but you're also someone I should know. It doesn't stop us at I'm someone you should know. When we know our self worth, it does affect how we treat other people. I remember this lady. I had a costume jewelry on at work, and she asked me. She liked it. And I said, I got it from the wholesale stores on the north side. I said, if you'd like to go one day, I'll take you. And tell me I was not called aside to ask me, did you just offer to take her to the wholesale store? Do you know she rich? I'm like, oh, good Lord. Maybe that's how the lady became rich at the wholesale store. I don't know. But she liked the jewelry. And we're so bound in a sense with what we do and what we can say because we're not free in ourselves. That's why we work so hard to become whole and authentic. We can say stuff to people. When President Carter, the former President Carter, came to my house, and when I became a Habitat homeowner, and he came and I was showing him the house, walking him through, showing him my house, and he got into my bedroom, and I didn't have an extra chair. I didn't have a chair in my bedroom, and he sat down on the bed and was talking to me, and I told him, I said, don't you go tell your wife you sitting on my bed. And I would say that to my brother, jokingly to my brother, and I would say that to President Carter, jokingly to President Carter, because I don't have a certain set of ways that I treat this one, or a certain set of ways that I treat the other, because we are all worthy. We are all worthy. The homeless person is yet worthy. That man I talked about yesterday in prayer, who's been in jail over 25 years, thinking he's gonna get out, and they told him he wasn't going to get out. He is yet worthy. If that man is the sum total of the worst thing that he has done, then why aren't we the sum total of the worst thing that we have done? I was talking to my dad, Mark is my dad, you all. When I was talking to Dad the other day, we went out to eat lunch, and we were talking. And one thing that really we talked about, some of the same things. People, I forgot what I was going to say, but anyway, nobody is the sum total of the worst thing that they have done. None of us are. None of us are. If I'm going to put that pressure on them, I know we were talking about that. We were talking about doing others as you want them to do you. When we say that, when the scripture, when we talk about that, what he's saying is, I wish the same action for you as I was wish for myself. So I don't know why this man was in prison. I really don't know. But whatever his conviction was for, even if it was murder, if I killed somebody, I would want mercy. So I'm to want mercy for him. That's how we do unto others as we would do unto him. If my child had done something that this worst person did, I would want my child to be forgiven, and I would want somebody to help my baby. That's the same thing that I should want for everybody else. But sometimes we look out of the glass at the other people's lives, and we think that they should get the worst of the worst, instead of looking in the mirror of our own and realizing that none of us deserve. We all blessed to even be here. But let's go back. So how does our self-worth, when we know our self-worth, is really going to affect how we treat other people. And it's important that we know how to treat other people. And we have to start by knowing how to treat ourselves. If we don't know how to treat ourselves, we're not going to know how to treat other people. Because if I mistreat me and it hurts me, and it hurts me and I can still mistreat me, it doesn't hurt me when I mistreat them. So I don't feel the pain that they feel when I mistreat them. So knowing our self-worth is very, very important in how we treat other people. As I said, this is all I have for today. We're going to do our affirmations. I want to thank you all for joining today. I really, really appreciate everyone who joined today. I appreciate all of you who may join and watch this video later. On here or on YouTube. And I will be back online Friday morning bringing the word. We will continue to talk about being a forgiven sinner on Friday morning at 8 a.m. And then on Saturday morning, I will be back. I don't know what we'll be talking about on here Saturday morning, but we will be back on here Saturday to talk about Saturday morning with Dr. Mama Rosie Thompson. And I want to thank you all again. Our affirmations for today: we honor ourselves by being whole and authentic. We are whole and we are authentic. We don't doubt our powers, nor do we doubt our values. We are worthy. We are actually and exactly what and who we claim we are. We are all of that. We bring every fragmented part back into our lives. We are the good, we're the bad, we're the ugly. We bring it back into our lives, and we are whole and we are authentic. Love and tranquility surrounds our interactions, and it affects our every decision. We replace hate, anger, agitation with other people with intentional and positive interactions. We allow ourselves to accept positive comments and thoughts about ourselves, and we are always a safe place for ourselves. I want to thank you once again for joining. You all have a very, very blessed day, and I will see you Friday morning or Saturday morning at 8 a.m. Have a good day, and thank you so much for joining. Goodbye.